This is Beyond Species, a podcast exploring issues around speciesism and the struggle to dismantle it. In this episode, we hear from Tanvir, who's based in Richmond, Virginia. They came to the animal liberation movement through the straight-edge hardcore punk scene. Tanvir gives us some idea of what it's like to do activism solo or in a small group, having moved away from well-known activism franchises. So let's start with, do you just want to then give me an introduction to your activism, like what you're doing now?
Yeah, I guess what I've been doing now is I've been sounds kind of juvenile, but I've been writing on electric boxes and things like that, or writing where it's kind of all right, maybe, and I don't write over anyone or anything. Just trying to be visible, as long as I don't really mind if someone writes over it. It just means I read it, and I feel like it's a way to kind of talk to other writers or even just people too. And,
Okay, sorry, so you said electric boxes there is what you mostly write on. What is that actually?
they're green power generators.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're
I
talking
think.
about now.
Yeah, because people ride in those all the time, and you can feel want to do that when it's dead at night and stuff, or be really cautious. But
Okay, so you write vegan or anti-speciesist messages on these things then?
yeah, because I feel honestly, it feels like it's the only way I can articulate what I want to say, because when the medium kind of speaks the message, it's inherently destruction of property, which is um kind of not a message speak about, and animal rights as a whole. When society sees it out from outside looking in, I feel like they see all sorts of messy things. So that's why I think I like it a lot, because it is inherently destructive to state property. And you can take the time, if you're depending on what you're doing, to actually write what you want to write, instead of just this is the sign I have, that's it. You can write and eat capitalism, not animals, or think anything you want to. Anything you want.
And so these electric boxes are generally quite visible then, like a lot of people see what's written there.
Yeah, usually they're on sidewalks and people walking by, or traffic crosswalks and stuff. So people are waiting, they can read it, or there's always gonna be other people wanting to write. So if they are about to write, they'll see that and they're writing. So it's kind of not I got a huge banner over the highway or anything, but it does feel like lately it's been the most authentic way to communicate animal rights for me personally, because I don't know, you can, yeah, I guess you can write what you want, and the medium is the message that feels more appropriate, I guess. Instead of a civilized protest, not saying that we don't need any of those, but it's a acceptable thing. My living doesn't depend on me getting caught for it yet, so I feel like it's taking advantage of that.
Okay, so also, I like the idea of reclaiming that public space as well, and
Yeah.
taking that and using that for the animal rights message.
Yeah, because it's so corporatized, I guess, and people think it's all sorts of green smoothies and PETA stomping over other movements and things. So I feel like it's a more intimate way to talk to people about it, in a more meaningful way,
Mm.
and it makes it less personal, which is also good too. It's harder on the problem than it is on like just another person, like that feminist talk you shared, isn't static. So try to be as hard on the problem and not the people as possible, while leaving room for everyone to hold each other accountable. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I totally see that. So it's letting people take it in, kind of taking the message passively,
Yeah.
and process it in their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought of it. Like I've done stickers before. Like stickers are really easy, and you can put them
Right.
anywhere. Um, yeah, and I suppose that's a really accessible form for a lot of people, to get some stickers or to go write some stuff. Stickers are maybe a little bit easier, or maybe less likely to get you arrested. I don't know. I feel like you can just kind of, instead of having to go like at night like you do with the writing, is you could have a sticker in your hand ready and just put it on a traffic light or something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think both of them are really, yeah, really interesting, because it's that the main thing for me is about taking that public space back, and it's like getting a positive message across, while also like saying "fuck you, state property."
Yeah. So I love about
Um,
it. It's like, uh, and if you do like more bold things, like I don't know, say you like do something wild, like right over like the like front door of like some like building, it'll like show that like it's like a risky thing and stuff. So it'll almost like gain more like whoa, like all this for that message, kind of.
hmm.
But obviously, you don't want to take unnecessary risks either. But that's yeah,
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's that thing about balancing the risk versus the reward. What are you prepared to do? Is this going to pay off in the way you want it to? Um, I think we need to think a lot about that.
yeah, and also for like anyone listening to this, do be careful though. Like, this is not like legal for most cases, and always like mask up, no face, no case, and it's the dead of night. Like, yeah, you can like get away with it. Like sometimes, like even in broad daylight, it's a quick like as you're walking by or so. But you want
Mm.
like you said, want to weigh in the rewards and the risk.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose that's the other thing is CCTV cameras, right? Because in the UK they're everywhere.
Yeah,
Uh,
my friend said that he's into writing for a while. That like those cameras can't really pick up your face too much, especially if you have a hood, let alone like you're masked up. You definitely can't like see it.
mm.
But I don't know how true that is for certain cameras.
Well, I think the technologies. I mean, the technology is obviously there. I guess it just comes down to a cost thing. But in the UK, they're really big on getting really good quality, like high def cameras, facial
Uh,
recognitions coming in. Yeah, probably still not in a lot of places, but maybe not so much on the rail, um, public transport and stuff. But then again, maybe it is because public transport's like a terrorism risk.
right.
So yeah, we really do have a quite a big brother situation here with the CCTV. But like you say, uh, do your best to minimize that risk if you're going to do it.
The manifestations of the misdirection of humanity take shape in many, many different forms. They take shape in sexism, in racism, in classism, statism, nationalism, anthropocentrism, and every other bigoted ideology that has taught us to believe that one type of living being is inferior to another. The resistance to this misdirection takes shape in as many forms as a misdirection does. And this song was written with that resistance in mind, specifically to the Zapatista National Liberation Army, to the Animal Liberation Front, to the Earth Liberation Front, to all feminist and indigenous struggles, and to the international anarchist struggle. We are the seeds of the new world to come, and we are the true freedom that will ring in every corner of this world. Never fucking doubt your own potential. This song goes out in loving appreciation of the man named Rod Coronado. Song's called Cauterize.
Hardcore scene next then. So we know your thing at the moment is mostly the writing. That's what you're finding the most kind of rewarding for you.
Yeah, and we've been doing like disruptions like every month-ish with like just like my friend and I, because it's just so small, but just to like keep it up and be experimental, leaving the door open, seeing what happens.
Okay, tell me a bit more about that then. What kind of disruptions have you been doing?
So like yeah, when I like left DXC and stuff, or stopped like removed myself from associating with them, still did like Whole Foods disruptions, but like immediately like made it like more like rights based and like deliberately like forwardly anti-capitalist, and we would like kind of like do our best to like tie in other issues without like making it look like we're trying to like using them as a stepping stone to for our own like personal gain or whatever. And yeah, just like pretty similar to like the old school like DXC disruption type stuff, but it's like go in there with, like really powerful message and like with like a speak out, and then just chanting and leaving as slowly as possible. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so you said it was like a speak out, but you've got a rights based message. So what kind of stuff are you saying, or signs are you holding when you go in there?
Here, let me so we'll just talk about like instead of like focusing on like how like much the animals are like suffering and such, we're saying that like hey, like these are like individuals with like that are valid holders of the right to be free, etc. They have the right to be like have their dignity and things like that. And uh, what's what's happening to them is just another form of discrimination, and just things like that. And tie in like we're about to do like Chick-fil-A, so we'll talk about like how they still fund anti-LGBTQ charities and such, and they like always hint at removing those donations to like kind of have some of the activism like lay off or whatever. And but they never do because their profits don't really depend on it. So we're going to outline that like hey, like it doesn't matter, all they care about is money anyways. They just want to commodify the bodies of non-humans and make the most money they can, and it all goes back to their like skewered set of values. So we're presenting you essentially like a closed message, like a non-negotiable case that these like the non-humans have the right to be free. And we also understand that this like capitalist system is like corrupt, so we're not really here to police your consumer choices, but we are at the same time we're also being like very like articulate that like this is like their like right to be free, and it's we're gonna like kind of hope you like reflect on that and do your best to like as much as I hate like consumer but like still like at least reject these like commodified body parts as like symbols of violence to the least, and see if that kind of incites like a rage or like dissent in people that are witnessing the demonstration for speciesism and homophobia alike. And also not trying to stay in there for like too long. Like even though after getting kicked out, because we do want to give them like time and space to process that message, but I feel a lot
Okay.
more respectable that way than trying to guilt people about like how much others are suffering and cruel. Because I mean, like you said, it's like that's like one of many used tactics in the animal movement, but I think also that this is like something kind of newer to us that we want to see how the vibe of the bystanders is from witnessing a kind of demonstration like that. But
Hmm.
that's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
that's well, yeah, that's interesting because obviously, um, I mean, almost all the demos that I see um, are about cruelty, mistreatment, torture, whatever you want to call it. All these words, which
Mm-hmm.
is true. I mean, obviously that's happening, and
Right.
but Roger Yates speaks all the time about this, about how we don't talk enough about rights, or hardly ever about rights, because we're so focused on the cruelty and the suffering. And I know that people think that we need to talk about the cruelty and the suffering because it's like a way into talking about the rights. But I feel like we end up in this circle where we're just talking about the cruelty and the suffering all the time. And in people's
Yeah.
minds, they're saying to themselves, "Well, I'm going to go and buy the organic grass-fed, and that'll stop the cruelty, or whatever." Or even, a little bit of cruelty is okay, maybe depending on which animal and what that person thinks of the animal. Um, so maybe we would gain more ground actually if we just cut out this, like, the cruelty is a symptom, I
Mm-hmm.
think, of the rights violation, which we all kind of know as activists or vegans. You would hope that everyone kind of gets that. But then
Mm-hmm.
why is our messaging not shortcutting to the actual root, which is the rights violation? So it's like we never move on out of the cruelty, because once you start talking about cruelty, then all that stuff comes in about guilt, shame, etc. And people think that that's a really good tool. Like recently, there's been a lot of talk about hypocrisy, exposing people's hypocrisy and
Oh my
cognitive
goodness.
dissonance and so on. So it's, yeah, but I feel that there's very little talking about the rights. And I think we need to really look at that closely and figure out how to readjust our messaging, and in particular our demonstrations, to get that message across.
Yeah, because it's like I guess for what it's worth, what moved me from animal like liberation messaging the most was like how like extreme and like uh wholesome it is. Because it just means like the way it was presented to me through music, it was like it's kind of like everyone's like coexist, world peace, like no discrimination. Like it's not like it wasn't really about like the cruelty when the way I was introduced to it. So
Okay.
I think like when cruelty is like short term and like rights is like long term, because like I feel like cruelty and welfare, talking about the suffering, you just get a handful of like reactionary, like animal, like cute animal sympathetics and stuff.
Mm.
Whereas rights is like such a more like uh, severe like challenge to like uh, I guess like a lot of our prejudices and like forms that like we might have kind of like internalized feelings of like being superior to others. So that's what I liked the most. It's kind of like a I know Roger Hayes talks about the Great Refusal. I don't know too much about it yet, but it's kind of just like refusing that like dominant mindset for me. So
So what was it then that brought you to veganism and animal liberation?
right, yeah. So I've been like skating probably like half my life now, like skateboarding, and I guess like along the way through like random like skate movies and videos, like people, a lot of skaters just like find music like that way, and then like friends like get into bands and stuff. And I guess like around like my first year of like freshman, before I dropped out for the first time in undergrad, uh, I started like finding myself a lot more immersed into like hardcore punk, like bands like Instead, Gorilla Biscuits, Youth of Today, and it was a lot of times there's a sub genre of hardcore, like straight edge hardcore, and they kind of like talk about like drug use. It's kind of like almost like its own like really niche thing, but like it did gain like a lot of movement within that um, like scene. It started from like a song called Straight Edge by Minor Threat and from Washington DC. It wasn't supposed to be like a thing, it's just a song, but it turned into a thing. And within that, people kind of like started taking like a notch higher and started talking about like animal rights. There's also artists and bands within and out of hardcore that were already talking about that before straight edge and stuff, but that's just kind of like how it like spoke to me. It's like hard to remember like the exact song, but it was kind of like the lyrics kind of just like mashed together in my head, and they're just always talking. Sometimes they'd always like talk about like animal liberation and stuff, and it kind of like along with like how the government is messed up, and like along with like police brutality and like things like that, and like it all kind of like merged in my head, like kind of subconsciously. Then it got to the point where like I would feel weird like eating animals, like, and like I went to like this like one like tropical smoothie kind of like fast restaurant with my friend. I had like a Beyond Meat thing, and I was like, wait, why are we even like eating animals if we have this? But still, it's like a species thing, because kind of like the articles you sent and stuff, it's like mock meat still kind of implies it's okay to um, commodify animal body parts as long as you have these alternatives. But I was still like kind of coming down from that those species prejudices, and like my friend, they were like kind of moved by Gary Yourofsky and stuff, and I didn't really know much about the speech anyways. I didn't like really watch any slaughterhouse movies or like speeches or anything. It was just kind of through like that stuff, like friends and music and such. And then like, yeah, you can just like be vegan. Like there's like vegan cheese, and you don't really have like an excuse. I'm like, oh, I really don't have like an excuse. So that's how I got into it. Then I didn't really do anything about it for like two, 3 years probably, because I didn't go on like social media for a while. Then I went back on because like I was like, all right, like care a lot about it, but feel pretty desperate, not knowing what to do about it or anyone like minded about it. And then fall in the rabbit hole of like AV and DXC and such, and start like meeting people, and then yeah, then you fall in the other rabbit hole of saying how like corrupt all those organizations are, and start learning about all these different kinds of like theories and like more about other movements and like the history of like other movements. And yeah, now I've
Yeah.
digressed into writing on power boxes.
I think, yeah, I think that's definitely a progression though from those groups.
Yeah,
You know, it's that thing about finding your own voice within it. I think, which is important. Like
yeah,
you're out there doing activism on your own, or with maybe a couple of people that you know, but you're doing it according to you know a stronger message. I think
yeah,
which is the rights-based message. So you've kind of you're taking that on board and you're evolving it yourselves um, because you realize that those groups have so many different concerning things about them, as well as that their messaging, or AV at least, messaging is speciesist in itself.
yeah, yeah.
started with skating, got involved in the hardcore music scene, and then that kind of led you to veganism, and then you got back on social media to explore the veganism more because you wanted to know how to go about, living, I guess, living in the right way, or finding more information about it. And then you discovered groups like AV and DXE.
Yeah.
So you decided, obviously, you wanted to get involved in some activism and to take it the next step. So do you want to start by telling us a bit more about your what your experience of the activism that you did with AV and DXE, I guess?
Yeah, so like when I like went to like the first Cuba Truth, I was like, well, this is so cool. Like I wish like someone told me like when this is happening, like when I first went vegan, because like I would have gone immediately. I just didn't like know how to like find these things or whatever, like really know anyone. And I was like, all right, it's cool. And then like get like you can get kind of like pretty comfortable pretty quick, because it is kind of like the way it is like a kind of capitalist thing. It's like a sales event. Like you just have to like memorize the facts and like have like a 101 on like corporate communication basically. And like
Yeah.
they just yeah, I mean, like on the first cube, the organizer, well, there was like there's DXC organizer there, and they wanted to do like a disruption or something right afterwards, and like no one else was down. But I was like, all right, like I'll check it out. Like what could it be? Like why not? Like fuck it, like whatever. Like that's just like kind of like my part of like my vegan attitude or whatever. Like fuck it, like whatever. Yeah, like and uh, basically he was like standing outside like restaurants with like a slaughter footage laptops and
Mm.
outside of people like while they were eating, and I was like, yeah, like I don't know, like doesn't feel that great, but we're doing it. Like I didn't know much about like the social science theories and stuff, and he showed me this like why disrupt video, and I was pretty inspired and like moved by it, and I was like, cool, yeah, like I'm up for it. Like I guess like I'm still like in like back in like undergrad school. Like I don't have like a real job like that, where like my living doesn't like count on me getting like caught doing like wild things like that or anything. So I was like, yeah, like whatever, like let's do it. Like and then yeah, like so that was back then. Like people would still go to like cubes in Richmond, and people would sometimes people would go to the DXV things. The disruptions were they were like actually pretty all right sometimes. Yeah, they're pretty all right.
Mm.
The organizer would have like a speaker with like pig screaming and stuff. So that now that I'm looking back and I understand like how like rights and welfare advocacy are like two like very different things, it's like you don't really need that. But I mean that's just kind of like kind of have to go a little deeper into that, anyways.
Yeah, I think I also want to look at this a lot more, because we're told that shock tactics do work. I mean, but
Yeah.
I guess in what way? Yeah, if you go into a restaurant with sounds of animals being slaughtered, um, that's definitely going to shock people. So it's going to have that effect that you want, and then it's going to get in the media, probably, hopefully. I think that's the main goal with a lot of these disruptions is obviously the discussion that follows in the media afterwards.
Yeah.
And they seem to be a success in that way. Like they're getting into the media, usually from the ones I've seen in the UK anyway. So that's
Hmm.
good. Um, and then, parts of the press release will be used in some cases. So the concept of speciesism is at least getting aired in the media.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, I just don't know. This tactic seems to have been going on for a long time now, and I
Yeah,
feel
that's what
like
I'm
there
saying. It's
must.
like if that
Yeah.
if it was sorry, if it was like that easy,
Hmm.
then we would have won a long time ago.
Hmm. I suppose so. Yeah, it's like I feel like there's definitely room for it to evolve. I just don't know exactly how yet. But um, I suppose someone might argue, say, well, actually, the reason why we haven't won yet is just there's not enough people around the world doing these kind of disruptions, which kind of leads on to the thing about that's why we need as many chapters as possible everywhere and as many activists as we can get. And then that kind of feeds into DXC's approach that is they try to create vegan activists, not just vegans.
Right.
Yeah, I have another view on that. I'll need to find the link. If I remember, I'll try and post it.
Mm.
And the podcast links, but it's actually just an anarchist article, and it's about the activist identity. And actually, it's arguing against trying to create activists because actually everyone is or can be an activist without the kind of tag. And it's that thing again about I think there's problems with the vegan identity because um, people feel that when they become vegan, they have to take on all this baggage that comes associated with it.
Yeah.
And then once you're vegan, then you have to level up even more and become an activist, which there's an activist look, there's an activist mentality, there's a lot of debate in activism circles about, what an activist is, should be. Are you doing the right activism? Are you not? I mean, obviously, I'm always going on about that, and maybe not always in the right way, but so when we're going out there and saying to people, you must become an activist, I can see where that message is coming from because we want everyone to stand up and start doing stuff about society, right? But I think we need to think about the presentation of activists,
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
um, because it should be everyone. What we're really wanting is everybody on Earth to get involved with political matters and start doing things in your community to challenge the system, which is ultimately capitalism, and start not even fixing it, but breaking it down and reworking it in your own community level. I think is probably the only realistic way you can do it. So everyone must become an activist. Yes, I agree, but what is an activist? What do they look like? How do they act? What activism do they do? This is where the problems are. We've set the bar very high. Like it's a high bar to become a vegan, I think, for a lot of people, and then it's an even higher bar to become an activist.
Yeah. It's almost like I kind of like dwell on this like around my circle and stuff. Not like my we don't really have like a vegan activist circle, but
Mm,
I really like hate feeling like some people like and like friends and stuff think that like, oh, like they're the activist, they're gonna do the stuff, because they're the activist, where it's like, no, like I just want like everyone to like do something if they can during this place in life that they can spend like a few minutes a week doing something, maybe like anything. It's not like because I am an activist that I am doing these things. But I get really shy with like trying to like say like I'm an activist or anything. Like I just like wear like animal or like animal rights slash like vegan stuff. Like if I'm like depending on what kind of scenario I'm in, just kind of
mm.
promote it on the go. But beyond that, I actually like really don't like being seen as like an activist as much, at least within like my own like community and such. It's just like it feels really like separating. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that thing about we're creating yet another identity,
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't feel inclusive really.
No.
We're creating a new role, and it which suggests that to be able to change things, you need to step up and adopt certain positions. Maybe that's not the right way of phrasing it. You need to step up, and I mean, there is kind of an activist look, you know. I mean, even with AV, just look at AV. I mean, it's all black, it's backwards cap. You know, um, they've got an actual uniform, for fuck's sake. And I know they'll say that, well, this is the demo works better because we're all in black and it is uniform and it focuses attention on the screen, whatever. There's probably some science behind that, but I think really, I think they like the look, you know.
Yeah, actually, I had like a I was talking to my non-binary friend. I met at an old juice bar job, and like, uh, I was telling them like, yeah, like my first fur protest, like the description the organizer put for one of them was like, you must like come business casual so the public takes it seriously. And like we like,
Hmm.
as that came out of my mouth, like we immediately like felt like wow, it's kind of like really weird. Like I don't know, it feels kind of like almost like this might sound kind of harsh, but like kind of classist or like yeah, like it doesn't have to be that alienating. Like it's not. It kind of almost like in a way, and this is an open discussion to, I feel personally that in a way that it kind of takes away from almost a sense of urgency for the issue. It's almost like only like these people are supposed to talk about the issue instead of like this is like an issue that like affects everyone, you know?
I think I know what you're saying, and I think this is something that actually Extinction Rebellion have probably done quite well for the most part,
Hmm.
or at least have tried to do. Um, you know, well, they believe in the 3.5% thing that if you can get 3.5% of the population to become active for the cause, then it's very likely to achieve what they want it to achieve. Um, but there's other views that show that that research they've based it on is flawed. Um, but the point is that yeah, XR have tried to do that, and in a lot of ways they've been successful because they've got a lot of people who would not normally consider themselves activists or become uh, active in that way to actually join marches and protests and even lock-ons and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we should be aiming for as well, and maybe learn from some of the mistakes of XR. Is we need to just make this about people in our communities feeling empowered enough that they can join a group of people in their community and take action. And that there's roles for everyone. That's what XR do well as well. You know, there's a role for everyone. You can go and get arrested if you want, or you can help out with other stuff. You can be manning the food stall. Um,
Yeah.
and these are the kind of things we need to look at, I think, because it just feels like more well-known groups like AV have created an activist role. And I'm actually sick of the word activist. I hate applying it to myself as well.
Okay,
It
yeah,
doesn't.
we're on the same
It
page.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel like, you know. And the other thing is, I remember when I went to my first cube. I mean, I'd never been involved in politics before or a social justice movement. I'd always considered myself um, kind of tuned into politics, but I would vote every 4 years or whatever. You know, I was one of those people. I actually
Hmm.
believed that if you vote every 4 years, that was going to get achieve something.
Hmm.
And so when I went along to my first Cube of Truth, I was thinking everyone there is going to know all about animal liberation. I don't know anything about it. Um, you know, they've been doing activism probably for like a long time. What if they ask me questions and I don't know stuff, or they catch me out saying something, you know. And I think a lot of people probably do feel like that. It's like, how much do you need to know about animal liberation to become an animal liberation activist? I mean, it does help. Like, obviously, like what Roger Yates is always saying, you know, you need to know the history of the movement. So we should start educating ourselves and helping each other along with it. But also, you don't want that to be a barrier to people getting started. It needs
Yeah,
to feel welcoming and inclusive. You need to feel that you can go there and not know a lot of stuff and not, you know, you get picked up on it in a negative way. It needs to be a safe space. I think ultimately that's what, for me, what it comes down to. You need to know that when you're going to this action for the first time or this meeting, that people there are going to accept you, and it's okay not to know, because we're all finding our way through this.
yeah, like it's uh, yeah. When it's like that, it's like I was actually it's fine. I'll say it. Like the Trump be vegan, like for Trump, the $1 million campaign. I'm gonna try to like leave out names, but I mean they're already out there, so I'm sure it's not much of a surprise. But I did do a disruption with one of them like a long time ago before it like they started doing the Trump stuff, and I was trying to tell them like, look, like this is like wild, and like why is everyone so enthusiastic about learning every single like cruelty fact about like how um non-humans have their like throats slit and put in the gas chambers and stuff like that, but they just also shy away immediately when they're talking about like other things. It's like it's really weird. I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent a little bit, but
No,
the thing like
that's a really
they
good point. Yeah.
memorize like every single thing. It's like almost like, oh, I have like more facts than you. Like I'm gonna win this like debate, you know? And I know that's been like its own like discourse within itself, is like presenting animal rights as a debate and how that can also be a problem itself. It's like this thing that it's like I've been finding myself, and this like this doesn't happen to me as much anymore, but when people get like, you know, they're just a tip like normal like offended by animal rights, just the normal offend, and they try to like go on, and I'm just like, look, it's not that deep. Like animals have the right to be free, and that's it. Like I'm not. It's a closed message, you know. So I don't. It's almost like if it's that simple, you don't really need to know all those facts and things, even though they do help. It's good to be educated and you understand those things better. But as far as qualifying to reject a form of discrimination, all you need to know that it's wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, yeah, we could save a lot of time maybe if we moved on straight to the rights discussion, which will obviously bring its own complications with it. But I really like how you phrase that there, that it is a closed message. You know, yeah, it's that thing about the whole circle of cruelty and welfare that we keep getting trapped in. But actually, the thing that annoys me is there's people making money off that.
Yeah.
You know, the YouTube celebrities, their lifestyles are funded by those debates. So they encourage those debates and they encourage other people to keep having those debates. And it's as if the debate is the thing that eventually, collectively, we're all going to win this huge debate because we've addressed every single issue point by point. And it's like, okay,
Mm.
that's not really working, but it's working for you because you keep putting up these videos about me versus so and so, you know, me versus Muslim, me versus farmer, me versus, and we're creating, when we're doing that, we're just creating that versus thing, when we're actually
Yeah.
just trying to bring, we should be trying to bring people in and say, hey, let's talk about rights. Did you want to speak some more about AVDXE and how you came out of those groups and why?
Sure. Like, I was like, so I just remember it was like last summer and like during like Yulin dog protests, and I was still like trying like every single like animal protest like within my area. Then like some of the organizers started like acting kind of funny, and other people started like hey, like they're kind of like a jerk and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, they kind of are, and I felt like I was like, there must be something deeper to it. It's like a feeling like they're racist. Like I don't know, like I didn't know like much about like anti-colonial stuff like as much like until now after like starting to like confront those things like more directly, but like yeah, then like I was like, hey, like did you know about this organization? I started like finding all these things at once, and like then that's what like surprised me the most. Immediately, like no one was listening. Whoa, like this is like animal liberation, people for the cause for animal liberation, not like looking at these things. It's like what's to lose or what's being defended here. Like it's like still kind of beyond me. Like how the
Mm.
thing is, and then you have like feminist and decolonialist theories and stuff trying to like explain those nuances and stuff, and it's like wow, like just like I felt like kind of betrayed, like pretty betrayed actually. That like no one like listened to those things, and then yeah, and I just like left everything, and then yeah, you quickly get ostracized. Right, I quickly got ostracized within like the bulk of the animal activists because there's like, oh no, like they like fell out of line or whatever. They're just speaking out, probably like a troublemaker and stuff. Like don't hang out around them or whatever. Like I don't know. So I was just like, yeah.
Mm. Did you carry on doing activism with any of those people afterwards? Did anyone kind of fall out at the same time, and or was that just kind of like a closed book? You were like, you're going to go do your own thing now because this
Yeah.
group has no interest in um, exploring the oppressions further.
Yeah, once I saw that like they didn't want to do that, explore those things further, I started being more stern about it. Like, sometimes people would want to like do activism. They keep inviting me to like cubes and stuff. So I was like, no, I'm gonna be like stern. Like this is it. This is it. Like I'm not gonna enable that. I'm not gonna try to like be like make it this like thing where I'm doing this because I personally think this or anything. This is like the kind of non-negotiable case I'm making, kind of like animal rights, non-negotiable case. So I don't want to, I guess like yeah, like being more stern about
Mm.
and not working with them anymore. So usually it's just like my friend and I, and they, yeah, they don't really good on them. They don't like stay in tune with all the drama and stuff with that stuff, but yeah.
Mm.
Just today, out of luck, like have like three other people that want to disrupt too. So that's to be interesting. And we've had more luck, like talking to them about like AV and stuff. So that's nice. But I'm not gonna try to work with anyone who's not gonna listen. And I've tried talking to people, and it's really disturbing when they kind of just like, yeah, but I don't think it's really matters. I'm like, okay, I'm out here.
Yeah, I when I initially first started posting about AV, I got a lot of messages from people who were doing activism for AV and organizers for AV, and there were two kind of themes that they would come at me with. One was, well, I know there's problems in the organization, but our local group is not like that. So I
Yeah.
just go to my local cube and we just um, we do this thing for the animals. We don't pay attention to the politics in AV elsewhere. So that was the one of them. The other one was like a little bit. Well, to me, it was a little bit worse. It was like, well, yeah, we don't really. We also don't agree with the stuff that the founders do and things like that. But every time like a vegan celebrity like posts that they've been to a cube or something, we normally get a couple of people coming along. So I don't feel able to break our group away from AV because, basically because celebrities are promoting AV, and that encourages people to come along to cubes. And I found that one a little bit more disturbing because it's really about that disempowerment. People didn't feel that they could break their group away. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me because you're showing up with people in your local town or area. You see them regularly, I guess, if you're doing a cube every month or maybe more, and maybe you're doing other types of activism with them too. You're probably friends with some of them, but you don't feel able to grow that group or sustain that group without celebrity support.
Yeah, and I got the exact same message last night actually. But like, yeah, this chapter is not like that. It is kind of interesting and scary to see how disempowering that like celebrity culture is, and like people like kind of basic basically being gaslighted from like all sorts of directions to defend anything for the animals. And it
Yeah,
comes down to that, I guess.
that's a good point. The gaslighting is pretty insidious, I think,
Yeah.
um, and it does come from all sorts of directions. You're right. Um, then, on the other hand, I have had people message me who have actually taken their whole group away from AV, and it's been a success. Because they've realized the way forward is anti-oppression, and they've started exploring that within their group, and they've discussed it, and as a group decided, yeah, actually we don't need AV,
Nice.
because you can do the exact same thing. There's a group in Edinburgh that broke away from AV last year, and they even asked AV, hey, can we still use the masks and the truth signs, because that's just going to be convenient for us. And AV were like, yeah, fine, don't really give a shit. So they do an exact same cube format, even with the masks and the truth signs,
Hmm.
but just not linked to AV at all. So I don't really see that there's anything to lose by stepping away, apart from. I wonder if people, we feel like we want to be a united front,
Yeah.
and this chapter style way of organizing seems like it makes sense because we're doing the same thing but in different locations, but we're growing in numbers, we're growing the chapters, and you can kind of see the growth happening, and that might make you feel that like we're coming together as a collective. I think that's something to do with Geez, where to start with this? I think so. I've been reading some stuff, and the angle on it is that the animal rights movement, which is usually referred to as the animal rights movement or sometimes the animal liberation movement, but it's not actually. It's more of a welfare movement than
Yeah.
a rights movement. And part of the reason for this, possibly a main reason for this, is that we have the professionalized element of this movement are charities and non-governmental organizations, professionalized organizations that they've got salaries to pay. They need to keep their structure going. They need to be able to run their campaigns. So it's all based around fundraising. So this professionalization um, means that they've kind of had to water their message down from a radical message of rights for animals and abolition, um, into a more welfare message that is a little bit more palatable for the public who are ultimately going to make donations, or I guess large funders as well, who aren't going to donate to an organization or a group of people that's attracting some heat, you know.
Mm.
You know, who's going to donate if the ALF did a fundraiser? You're not going to get, you know, a huge amount of money for that. You're not going to be able to support a big structured organization on that, probably. We've seen the kind of struggles that small groups have in raising money for court fees, you know.
Yeah.
Just you can't take that external outside of the community really and say, hey, public, we're going to court because we broke into a farm, and can you
Right.
please give us some money for this? Um, so what do you think about that, about
Mm.
the welfare message of the supposed animal rights movement?
Yeah. I think but actually before I forget, when you were talking about like the professionalization of a lot of these orgs and how it kind of grew to like start reducing itself as far as the message and theme. I think people from other movements who are like, I guess, like ahead in like anti-capitalism and things like that, they can like sniff these things from miles away. Like, oh, animal folks, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just like operating within the system. It's like not a serious cause. So I
Mm.
guess the quick message is that there's definitely a lot of radicals out there that would be like moved and like wanting to participate in animal rights type things. But um, like I don't even know how I would feel if I wasn't introduced to it through like that, like hardcore stuff. I don't even know how I would have reacted to it.
That's interesting. No, I guess a lot of people that are in this movement have been introduced to it through YouTube.
Yeah,
I guess social media generally, not just YouTube, but and that kind of less radical message. So it's as if these people need to be radicalized.
100%. And yeah,
There's other movements where, you know, you have to be radical because you're not going to get that public support anyway because what you're saying is so radical. You know, I don't know how like prison and police abolitionists are getting by. Um, Anti-racist work's probably pretty tough as well.
yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Like I didn't even like
that's
watch.
interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I hadn't really thought of that before. That the animal liberation movement isn't radical enough to attract people from the other movements
Yeah.
that
Oh,
are
I feel
actually would be on board if only we would step it up a bit, you know.
I feel like 3,000% on that. Like, I didn't even watch like I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything, but I didn't even really watch like Slaughter or like Gary's speeches or anything for like maybe even the first like couple of years of me being vegan and stuff, and like going to like shows like hardcore shows and stuff. Like the last show I went to, they were like handing out police abolition flyers and things like that. Like it was like presented to me like that. I don't know, like maybe it's the kind of person I am or anything, but there's definitely like a lot of radicals and stuff out there that probably like think animal rights is a joke because of how it's presented and stuff. And they're like, oh, it's like some like toy stuff, like whatever, you know?
Mm. Yeah,
They
that's
get bored of it
interesting.
probably. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And abolition v welfare, or the problem with the movement being the professionalized welfare element of it. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like we were talking about that earlier. I think I don't know if Roger Yates might have said this, and I kind of like the direction of it and stuff. Like he's saying that there's always going to be the welfare people doing welfare stuff. Like what we need now, as far as like a movement and whole, is like to reclaim that like radical message and stuff, and like for abolition and such. And I think that's I like it. It's I'd be lying if I wasn't saying that because I have this like romantic idea of just like full extreme like liberation. I'd be lying if I wasn't saying that wasn't part of it. Um, But
Well, that's okay though, isn't it? Because you kind of need to have a vision as well.
yeah,
And if you've got a radical vision, that's going to help you
yeah,
along that journey to take bold steps.
yeah. But I also don't want to be arrogant either in saying that like welfare hasn't helped at all. I mean, and a lot of things have helped,
Mm.
whether they even mean to or not. But also, I don't know. I don't have much to go off of. Just like rambling.
Rambling's okay. We're getting to the end of the episode, so it's actually quite a nice like ramble off.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, I consider myself an abolitionist who is understands that there's a need for welfare
yeah,
because the way I kind of well, one of the ways I've thought about this is chickens. So broiler chickens live for around about, depending where and what breed and so on, around, let's say around about 40 days. So it we are trying to abolish any chickens from being bred into existence for this purpose. They're going to die at day 40, uh, but for the other 39 days, they're going to be living in a well, that's it's a hellhole no matter what, you
right,
know. Um, there are people trying to make this experience better for them while they're in there. So, you know, more space, more light. And there's a group in the UK that's actually trying to I think it extends beyond the UK, but there is a group in the UK working on it that is trying to get the supermarkets to actually stop using certain breeds of broiler chickens because those breeds are prone to, heart problems, all sorts of health problems due to the weights they grow so rapidly, and so on.
right.
So that's kind of abolition within welfare, though, isn't it? Because they're trying to actually stop a certain breed from being used. So in a way, that's they're actually asking for that breed of chicken to go extinct, which is interesting from an abolitionist perspective. Well, it's just sent me into another head spin. But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, I mean, it's better for those chickens not to exist at all. I think we'd probably all agree on that. So,
like
there's
yeah, I'm still uh like I said, like it's definitely just me being like romanticized with the idea for like full abolition is like extreme, 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 extreme. So, but I don't want to be like ignorant that like we live in the like kind of like the feminist talk, the hidden
hmm,
cost of the patriarchy. Uh, it's kind of like the when the presenter was talking to the audience, saying that women should encouraging the women, I believe, to like learn how to play the game and be really good at it. Be
hmm,
like these like welfare approaches in a way, you know, recognizing for what they are, just like trying to get good at like find the ins and outs of how the these businesses work to with the end goal of abolishing them and kind of like uh,
hmm.
playing the game to win.
Yeah, it's that whole thing, isn't it? It's the welfare works with the system to try and reform it, and the abolitionist wants to smash the whole system down because it's inherently uh, gonna, it's inherently um, violating people's rights. It's inherently just sick, basically.
Yeah,
Um, but the thing is, coming back to the chickens, so uh, realistically, I mean, you know, I think I don't see how. I suppose the criticism for me is, and the valid criticism is that are these organizations that are working to reform the system, are they actually just contributing to that whole thing, the humane myth? Are they saying that, or are they sending the message out that there is a certain okay way to exploit animals? but also just the amount of resources for me is the big thing. Are we sending so much money in that direction through these professional organizations, which the system has actually pretty much co-opted and said, hey, look, we'll work with you, but
Right.
there's a lot of stuff you're not able to say because, so there, who's really driving it? So what I would like to see is a really strong messaged abolitionist approach, which can also function in society and get that public support. Because I don't really see many, and I'm not sure professionalization is the way to go with that anyway, but we
Right.
certainly need resources. And unfortunately, we certainly need money.
Yeah.
Um, so, how do we do that? How do we keep a radical message, but also get the public on board? Because ultimately, we can talk all day about how we want to smash the system,
Right.
but you know, can we just smash parts of it? Is that how do we dismantle this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing about I suppose the point I originally wanted to make about the chickens is we need to think about those other 39 days that chicken is alive, because it might be a long time before we achieve abolition. So if there are organizations that are genuinely trying to do their best for those animals, um, and yeah, they're not in it for the fundraising. They're genuinely trying to make life better for those animals while they're there. Can we really oppose that?
Yeah.
How do you feel as an abolitionist saying, well, you know what, it's the rights violation that I'm against. So those chickens shouldn't be there at all, and that's what I'm trying to stop. Okay, I get that, but they're there right now. Someone's trying to help them.
Right.
It's yeah. There's an essay I'll post. Hopefully, I can find it, called "The Abolitionist's Dilemma,"
Mm.
and it's exactly that. I think if I got it right, or maybe that's just in my head. I've made that work, but it is that thing. How can you be an abolitionist, and you can't be an abolitionist and say, well, I don't care about animal welfare. Can you be an abolitionist who says, I am an abolitionist, and I also support animal welfare? And obviously, I think you can, but there's a lot of caveats to that.
Yeah, I
And it
think
depends how you define welfare, and it depends who's doing it, and this kind of thing.
setting like almost like established lines not to cross too might help. I don't know. I also want to clarify, like, I still consider myself like pretty new to like movement, like um relatively, as far as the movement itself. So like I still feel like I have like lots of like reading and like stuff to do and like to like also. But I think like uh for like some of those two lines that maybe should not be crossed is like advocating for those like bigger cages with clearly the intent to get rid of them, but acknowledging that this is the way the system works. And obviously, they're not going to let them say that when they reach a certain level. So maybe it's just maybe promising not to cross that line, and also like saving potential to get resources for other things if possible. And then the other line is to I guess have like a whole like preventive like handbook essentially, so like organizations don't like get corrupt really fast from like getting too big. Like I know like Dr. Roger Yates saying that like PETA was like kind of like started out radical, taking out like animal testing stuff, and then now, as you were sharing, like they're like promoting like corporations and stuff. Same with like maybe even like DXC. They might have like started out radical before. Now they're just like I get the vibe that they're growing up really big. I don't know the ins and outs of DXC as much as I would want to, maybe, but yeah, so my thoughts on that, I guess. Not making sure something doesn't grow too big too fast to be the wrong thing, and also like keeping it keeping the message clear that we're wanting to get. Only reason we want bigger cages because we want empty cages, and this is a way to make these corporations lose money because that's why they're doing it in the first place. Essentially, a part of it, a big part of the reason. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that I totally get where you're coming from. Actually, this is something I think that would where we could really benefit from other movements, especially the prison abolition, because they must have this dilemma as well.
Oh,
That
right.
if they want, they want to abolish all prisons, but there's a lot of people in prison right now. I wonder what their take on it is. So that's maybe that's a final thought to leave it with.
Yeah, actually, I met a friend at like this last show I went to, and they were passing out like prison abolition flyers and stuff, and they're gonna check out Disruption too, I think today. So I'll try to remember to ask them about that stuff.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you get off to your disruption then.